Uh, testing. 1, 2, 3. Hi, this is a very primitive test to see if this camera can be used for this. Otherwise, I'm just gonna give up. Alright, I got the camera working. It's a very primitive setup, sorry for that, but you know. Alright, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Nicholas Forge. Spelled F-O-R-G-U-E. It's French, so you know, it's pretentious like that. Recently, I found that one of my friends, Tom Yeazer, a fellow film student over at the Flying Turkey Network, I'll link in the description, has been posting film reviews on his YouTube channel, and I thought, you know, why don't I try that? I've been a fan of film for a while, I enjoy watching people talk and review about films, I want to see if I can destroy my career with this. So, first and foremost, one of the things that was of concern to me was, alright, what's the first film I'm gonna talk about? And my mind kept going back and back to this particular film, which in my personal opinion is one of the best films ever made. That's right, the film that I'm going to talk about today is Shark Tale. I'm just fucking with you. The film we're talking about is The Prince of Egypt. For those of you who don't know, The Prince of Egypt is a 90s animated musical adaptation of the biblical book of Exodus. No, I'm not kidding. Despite how generally stupid the film's entire premise sounds, it's actually a really great film, and it's developed something of a cult following over the years. There's a great deal of passion behind everything that went into this, from the backgrounds, to the general animation, to the musical numbers, to the storytelling. Just everything about this film is grand in scope and dripping with meaning and effort. You probably know the story behind it. It's the story of Moses. But the thing that separates this film from, say, other adaptations of the Book of Exodus is where its focus on the drama lies. The Prince of Egypt is very smart because it zeroed in on the fact that Moses and Pharaoh, Ramesses in this case, are adoptive family members. They are brothers. The whole center of the conflict of this film is essentially that Moses has been raised his whole life to think he's Egyptian royalty, and he's this actually kind of a spoiled brat at first, until he sort of realizes his true heritage. And then just the guilt all hits him at once, because he realizes he's been an accessory to this genocide, to this oppression and slavery of his own people, without even really knowing or caring about them. He's ashamed of his adoptive heritage, essentially, both in the sense that he's been complacent in this oppression, but also in the sense that he can't be a part of this family he's known his whole life anymore. And he doesn't know, he's having an identity crisis because he's now torn between two cultures. And you can even see this in the design of Moses himself. There's very different character designs and sort of shapes for both the Hebrews and the Egyptians, and Moses is somewhere in between on that spectrum. Another thing I like is that on the other brother's end, Ramesses, he's not a one-dimensional villain. He actually reminds me a lot of Prince Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. He's sort of under the psychological grip of a father who is nationalistic and doesn't really see anything wrong with the way that the Hebrews are being treated. And he sort of instills in Ramesses this need to be a strong leader. He's not evil just for the sake of being evil. He legitimately thinks that by using slave labor to build this powerful empire, he has solidified himself as a great leader. So already in the storytelling, you're seeing this massively mature character study between two brothers who have been torn apart by circumstance. And both of them want nothing more than to settle their differences, but both of them, for whatever reason, can't. The thing that really makes this film, though, is the animation. This is animation that, in a lot of ways, not only matches the animation of the Disney Renaissance films, but also surpasses it. This is animation that is not just fluid and beautiful, but also grand in scope. You know, look at some of the backgrounds that this film has to offer. These just massive sweeping shots of the kingdom of Egypt, of the wilderness, of the Red Sea especially. Oh my god, the Red Sea has got to be one of the most gorgeously animated things in any animated film I've ever seen. Not only is the drama of the falling out between Ramesses as Moses, as brothers, as family, explored in a relatively tragic and realistic way, but the film doesn't pull its punches on the whole genocide thing either. You know, the film basically opens up with a musical number that is about how much the Israelites are suffering, and actually depicts Egyptian soldiers going into the houses of the Hebrews and killing their children. And this mature tone is also, again, reflected in the musical numbers. Like, I think Deliver Us and The Plagues are some of the most haunting musical numbers I've ever seen in a kid's film. Of the whip on my shoulder, with the salt of my sweat on my brow, and oh, thee, God of mine, can you hear your people cry? Help us now, this dark hour. Descend the pestilence and plague into your house, into your bed, into the streets, into your church, into your bread, on your cattle, on your sheep, on your goats, and in your field, into your fields, into your state, until you find until you It isn't just the musical numbers that's good either. The soundtrack for this film, the accompanying score created by Hans Zimmer, because he worked on this film, is one of the best scores for a film I've ever heard. I'm not like Sideways, so I can't commentate on the specifics of music or music theory, but one thing I do want to make note of is this film's use of leitmotifs. This film uses leitmotifs to depict either ideas or characters or sort of even emotions. There's also the burning bush theme, which represents God, essentially. And I think it's one of the most beautiful pieces of music in the film. It completely captures what God is, I think. Something that is powerful and ethereal and omnipotent and utterly above everything else, but also just brimming with love and compassion and majesty. And these leitmotifs play into some of the musical numbers and can be heard in the musical numbers even. The musical number All I've Ever Wanted, which is essentially about Moses being in denial of the fact that he wants more out of life, or that he is actually ethnically an Israelite.
Now I am home. Here among my trappings and belongings I belong. And if anybody doubts it, they couldn't be more wrong.
It comes back later in the film when Moses has become a shepherd in Midian and shows sort of his progression from being in denial of the home he's always lived in to accepting his new role in life. You've got Yoshevid's Lullaby, which is actually the first piece of music you hear in the film. It represents a lot of things, actually. It represents both Moses' connection to his family and the Israelites in general. It represents the Israelite hope for a savior to come and free them out of slavery. It represents them finally being free from slavery. It's just really smart the way this film ties together both its musical numbers and its soundtrack. I don't give scoring systems because I don't feel they add anything to film reviews. All I'm gonna say is if you want to see a really smart movie that takes you seriously, go see The Prince of Egypt. You can be Jewish, you can be Christian, you can be Muslim, you can even be an atheist, and you will get something out of this movie. Because unlike a lot of other religious movies, this film isn't really preaching to you. Alright, I hope you all enjoyed this film review. I was sort of terrified making it, but, you know, hopefully I'll find something else to review later on, and hopefully I'll get a better camera setup later on, and better audio too, and a script.